Leaving the body, Carl Jung, hypnosis, and the mystery of the astral self. There are moments when the mind slips its ordinary leash, when reality becomes porous, when consciousness begins to drift. We feel the body soften, dissolve. The weight of the physical world begins to fade, and something else, a presence, a watcher, emerges behind the eyes. Some call this astral projection, the experience of the soul stepping outside the body. Others call it hypnosis, a softening of the conscious mind, a descent into the symbolic and unseen. Carl Jung didn't often speak of these things in mystical language, but he walked close to them. He believed that consciousness is not a straight line, but a layered field, and that under the surface of the waking mind lies a vast territory where symbols move, archetypes speak, and the boundary between self and other begins to blur. In that liminal space between waking and dreaming, between ego and archetype, one may encounter something that feels outside the body but still intimately within the soul. This is where astral projection and Jungian psychology quietly meet, not in superstition, but in the symbolic language of the unconscious. The astral body, a symbol of the divided self in esoteric traditions, the astral body is thought to be a subtle duplicate of the physical form, a vessel of consciousness that can leave the body during deep sleep, meditation, or trance. It travels in what mystics call the astral plane, a realm beyond the material, but still structured by thought, image, and energy. Jung might not have used this language, but he understood its meaning. To him, the soul is not fully contained within the ego. There are deeper forces, the self, the shadow, the anima, the wise old man, the great mother, all active in the unconscious, shaping our experience from within. So when someone leaves their body, when they describe floating above themselves, moving through unfamiliar but meaningful spaces, Jung would ask, what is the psyche trying to show you through this image? Because to Jung, whether a thing is real in the outer world is not the point. The question is, what does it mean to you and why now? If the soul creates an image of flight, of separation, of drifting beyond form, there is a message in that. A truth too deep for language, but not too deep for symbol. Hypnosis, the gateway to the archetypal realm. To understand how these experiences arise, we must look at the mechanism that unlocks them. Hypnosis. Not staged tricks, not suggestion for amusement, but true hypnotic states, where the conscious mind recedes and the unconscious begins to speak. Jung saw hypnosis not as a tool of control, but as a way of opening a door into the symbolic landscape of the psyche. In deep trance, the ego becomes quiet. Linear thought dissolves. The boundary between memory, dream, imagination, and archetype becomes fluid. And in that space, visionary experiences can emerge. A person may see themselves leave their body. They may meet figures who speak in riddles but radiate wisdom. They may travel through landscapes that never existed and yet feel deeply familiar. These are not hallucinations in Jung's view. They are messages from the self. And sometimes, when the psyche needs to express something that ordinary consciousness cannot hold, it does so through images so vivid, they feel more real than waking life. Astral projection, then, in this context, becomes not just a supernatural journey, but a psychic event, a metaphor acted out in the inner world, a way for the soul to say, I am more than this body. I am trying to show you something about your freedom, your fear, your longing to transcend the ordinary. Jung's own near-astral vision. Jung was not just a theorist. He was an experiencer. In his memoir Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he describes a profound vision that occurred while he lay near death in a hospital bed. He writes of floating far above the earth, seeing the curvature of the planet, feeling a deep sense of peace and expansion. He reached a temple, luminous and ancient, where he felt he was about to encounter the essence of the self. But before he could enter, a voice told him, "You must return. Your work is not done." He descended, returned to his body, and lived many more years. Was this astral projection? A near-death experience? A vision? Jung never forced a label onto it. He simply asked, what was the psyche trying to tell me? And the answer shaped his entire later work. To Jung, the soul was capable of far more than most dared to believe. But it always speaks in its own language, not in proofs, but in symbols. The astral body, image of the soul's longing for freedom. Close your eyes. Imagine rising from your body, not flying, not like a bird or machine, but floating effortlessly, as if gravity has lost interest in you. You look down and see your form, still and quiet. You are watching yourself from above. There is no fear, only a strange sense of calm, as though you've returned to something forgotten. This is how many describe astral projection, not as a dream, but as a moment of expansion, a stepping out of the physical form into a body made not of muscle and bone, but of awareness. In esoteric traditions, this second body is called the astral body, a subtle vehicle of consciousness, capable of traveling through inner realms, detached from the limits of space and time. But what is it really? And why has it appeared across cultures, across time, from ancient Egypt to Tibetan mysticism to modern accounts of near-death? Jung's answer is both poetic and precise. The astral body is not just a metaphysical reality, it is a symbol, a psychic image formed by the deeper layers of the unconscious to express something the ego cannot yet say in words. It is a picture the soul paints when it longs to show us something about our nature, our duality, our tension between matter and spirit, between groundedness and transcendence. A soul in two worlds. Jung believed that human beings live in two realities at once. The outer world of the senses, matter, action, time, form. The inner world of the psyche, imagination, memory, dream, symbol. Most people collapse these into one. They live outwardly, forgetting that the inner world is just as real, perhaps even more so. But when the astral body appears in vision, dream, trance, or hypnosis, we are reminded, you are not only your body. You are not confined to what you can touch. You are also a watcher, a witness, a flame that moves through invisible dimensions. Whether this is a literal departure or a symbolic one, Jung would say the effect is the same. The psyche reveals its desire to transcend limitation, not to escape the world, but to encounter it with greater depth, to rise above the static noise of thought and re-enter the sacred, the archetypal, the vast. The archetypal structure of the astral image. Jung's method was always the same. When something appears again and again in myth, dream, and vision, it is not personal, it is archetypal. The astral body, then, is an archetype, a universal symbol of the soul's mobility, its longing for freedom, its ability to inhabit more than one form. We see this in myth, the shaman who flies to the underworld in trance, the Egyptian Ka, the soul double that survives death, the dreamer who walks among ancestors and returns with messages. These are not just stories. They are images of psychic truth, expressing something our conscious minds forget, that our sense of self is not fixed. It can shift, it can stretch, it can observe itself, and when it does, we are changed. Why the psyche projects itself outside the body, so why does the unconscious create the experience of leaving the body? Jung would say, because the ego is too small. It cannot hold the full reality of the soul. So the unconscious creates distance. It creates a double, a space between the one who sees and the one who is seen. This distance allows for insight, reflection, reintegration. To watch yourself sleeping is to realize that you are not just the one who sleeps, but the one who sees the sleeper. You are not only the body, you are that which experiences the body. This split, when held consciously, does not cause fragmentation, it causes growth. Because now the ego knows it is not alone. It is part of a larger self, a wider field, a deeper intelligence. Symbol, not escape. Some seek astral projection as a thrill, a novelty, a way to escape the pain of embodiment. But Jung would warn, you are not meant to leave the body forever. The goal is not flight, it is integration. The astral image, like all symbols, is an invitation, not to abandon the physical, but to expand the boundaries of what we believe is real. To remember that the psyche has rooms we have not entered, that the soul has more than one way to speak, and that sometimes, to hear it, we must leave the narrow hallway of reason and wander for a while in the realm of vision. The astral landscape, archetypes in the realm beyond the moment one slips from the body, or more precisely, the moment one experiences the image of slipping, a space opens. Not void, but architecture. A place, a realm, strangely familiar, filled with form but not matter, alive but not physical. This is what many who speak of astral projection describe, a world that is not out there, yet more than imagined, a dimension with texture, light, rhythm, but built from something deeper than atoms. Staircases that ascend into infinity, tunnels of light, forests that seem to breathe, ancient temples glowing with presence, and always this feeling, I've been here before. Carl Jung would not dismiss these landscapes as hallucination, nor would he literalize them. He would ask, why this image? Why this architecture? And why does it appear again and again across cultures, dreams, and visions? The geography of the psyche to Jung, the unconscious, is not chaos. It is structure. It has depth. It has form. And when the conscious mind retreats, as in hypnosis, trance, or visionary states, what rises into view is not fiction, but the geometry of the soul. These recurring spaces, tunnels, towers, light-filled halls, are not hallucinations, but archetypal images. They emerge not from fantasy, but from a shared symbolic language that exists deep within the human psyche. Just as the body carries ancient instincts, so the soul carries ancient visions. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a realm beneath the personal mind, where universal symbols reside. And in states where the ego loosens, the psyche uses these images to speak. Why these places? The tunnel, the most commonly reported symbol in near-death and astral accounts. It is both a birth canal and a passage to death. It speaks of transition, of moving from one state of being to another. In dreams and visions, tunnels are liminal. They suggest that something is ending, or just beginning. The temple, sacred architecture in the astral plane, often appears luminous, eternal. It is the image of the self, the archetype of wholeness. To enter a temple in vision is to approach the core of your being. It is not a building. It is a symbol of integration. The staircase, vertical movement, is always symbolic. Upward, transcendence. Downward, descent into the unconscious. In Jung's psychology, this imagery mirrors the process of individuation, the rising and falling required to gather lost parts of the self and become whole. The light, for many, the astral world is filled with strange light. Not sunlight, not electricity, but a kind of luminous presence. Light, in the symbolic sense, is always consciousness, awareness, awakening. In these states, one does not just see light, one enters it, becomes it. It is not decoration. It is message. Are these real places? The modern mind asks, did I really go somewhere? But Jung would shift the question. Is it psychically real? Because what we call real is often too narrow. If a place transforms you, heals you, reveals something buried, then it has weight, regardless of whether it appears on a map. Jung believed that the psyche does not distinguish sharply between outer and inner. A symbol is not less real because it is inward. It may, in fact, be more so. The symbolic places we encounter in trance or dream are structures of meaning, not of matter. They are thresholds, places the soul passes through when it is moving towards something it cannot yet name. The purpose of the journey. Why does the unconscious create these visionary spaces? Because the soul needs movement. It needs to show you what words cannot. When logic is exhausted, when the ego no longer knows what to do, the deeper self begins to guide. It does so through image, through space, through atmosphere. And each symbol you encounter in the astral landscape is not just scenery. It is a reflection of you. The temple is not a building. It is your center, calling you home. The staircase is not stone. It is the path of your own transformation. The light is not energy. It is the part of you that has always been awake. To travel in these realms is not to escape life. It is to re-enter it with more soul. Because once you have walked among the archetypes, you cannot return to the surface unchanged. You will see more, feel more, and carry a sense that you are larger than you thought. Not special, not chosen, just more fully yourself. The inner landscape shapes the outer life. Jung taught that the images we hold within shape what we seek without. So when the unconscious brings you to an inner landscape, do not rush. Do not interpret too quickly. Be with it. Walk its corridors. Ask why you were shown this now. Because everything in the astral realm, in the symbolic psyche, has a reason. And it is always speaking, if you are willing to listen without needing to explain. The edge of the psyche, risk, revelation, and the responsibility of vision. Not all doors are meant to be opened without preparation. Not all light is gentle. To step beyond the veil, whether through astral projection, hypnosis, trance, or dream, is not a game. It is a crossing. And as Carl Jung knew better than most, when you walk into the realm of the unconscious, you do not go alone. You take your fears, your wounds, your unresolved desires, your forgotten selves, and sometimes they meet you there. The unconscious is not always peaceful. It is tempting to romanticize the inner world, to imagine that leaving the body means entering bliss, that the soul's language is always gentle, that the symbols are here to comfort us. But Jung knew the deeper truth. The unconscious is not safe. It is not hostile, but it is honest. And honesty, when we are not ready for it, can feel like danger. Because when the ego loosens, when its walls are lowered by trance or vision, what it has hidden begins to rise. Childhood fears, long buried. Guilt, regret, old traumas. Archetypes with faces we don't recognize, but that live in us just the same. This is why Jung approached the unconscious with respect, not conquest. He understood that it is not a place to master, but a space to enter humbly, with guidance, with grounding, with care. The shadow may appear first in Jung's psychology. One of the first forces to emerge when the unconscious is stirred is the shadow, the part of ourselves we reject. In visionary states, this often takes form, a figure that follows you through the dream. A voice that criticizes, distorts, seduces. A sensation of presence, watching from a corner of the astral field. Many fear this. They label it as darkness, evil, attack. And yet, Jung would say, this is you. Not the part you show, not the part you like, but the part that holds the energy you have repressed. To fear the shadow is to fear a mirror. But to engage with it, to name it, to welcome it into consciousness, is the beginning of transformation. Because what we do not own controls us from the dark. And in altered states, what is normally silent has the space to speak. The risk of fragmentation, but what happens if you go too far, too quickly? Jung was clear, the psyche must be ready for what it sees. If someone enters visionary states unprepared, without a grounded ego, without a relationship to their own symbolic language, the result can be fragmentation. They may become disoriented, unable to distinguish inner image from outer world. They may become inflated, believing they are special, chosen above others. They may become addicted to the visionary, always seeking escape, never returning with insight. This is spiritual inflation, not true transformation, but ego dressed in robes of light. And it is dangerous, not because the inner world is evil, but because it is powerful. And power, unintegrated, becomes distortion. The return is what matters. Jung understood that the value of the journey is not in the vision itself, but in the return. Like a mythic hero, you must come back. You must bring something with you. You must make the inner experience matter in the outer life. Otherwise, it is not wisdom. It is indulgence. So the question is never just, what did you see? It is, how will this change the way you live, love, speak, create? A vision that does not touch your daily life is unfinished. It is still waiting to be integrated. Discernment, not fear. Jung never told us to avoid the unconscious. He spent his life inviting people into its depths. But he did so with discernment, with ritual, with a framework of meaning. Because entering the symbolic world is not entertainment, it is initiation. And initiations are not easy. They ask you to see what you have hidden, to hold paradox, to let go of certainty. But if you can endure this, not resist it, but witness it, something changes. You become more rooted, more complex, less reactive, more whole. Not because you've become perfect, but because you've stopped running from what is already within you. And in that stillness, truth begins to move. The return, integrating the astral, awakening the soul. There is a moment, always, when the vision ends. The light fades. The body returns. The ordinary world surrounds you once more. The bed, the clock, the room where nothing has changed except you. This is the moment Carl Jung would have considered the most important. Not the floating, not the symbols, not even the light, but the return. Because every journey into the psyche must return to the world. And if it doesn't, it remains a dream, not a transformation. Why the soul leaves the body at all. Astral projection, at its deepest level, is not about escape. It is about communication. The soul creates distance from the body, not to abandon it, but to see it clearly. To rise above one's form is to realize you are more than flesh. But to return to it with awareness is to become more fully embodied. Jung never asked us to choose between the spiritual and the physical. He asked us to unite them. The astral body is not meant to live elsewhere. It is meant to teach us how to be here more truthfully. Because when you've floated among symbols, when you've seen yourself from above, you understand. This life is not random. It is myth in motion. It is soul in structure. Making the symbol real after a deep journey, whether through hypnosis, dream, or trance. Jung's question was always the same. What does this mean for your actual life? If you saw a temple, where must you become more sacred? If you met a shadow figure, where have you exiled part of yourself? If you felt peace outside the body, what within you keeps that peace away in waking life? These are not abstract questions. They are invitations to live symbolically, not in fantasy but in meaning. Because integration begins the moment you stop analyzing the experience and begin responding to it. Not just with thoughts, but with choices. Jung believed this is where most people stop. They collect experiences but never metabolize them. The work of soul is not in the vision. It is in the change the vision demands. The goal is wholeness. Jung's psychology is not about light over darkness or spirit over body. It is about wholeness, the integration of opposites, the marriage of conscious and unconscious. The experience of leaving the body is not a goal. It is a symbol of that integration trying to happen. You are the grounded self. You are the floating soul. You are the one who sees, and you are the one who returns. When those parts begin to speak to one another, not in theory, but in the lived fabric of your days, you begin to transform. Not upward, but inward. Not away, but home. And that home is never found in escape. It is found in the honest meeting of all that you are. The body, the shadow, the vision, the silence, the wordless truth that lives beneath your name. What does it mean to wake up? If astral projection reveals anything, it's that we are not as confined as we think. Not by skin, not by circumstance, not by the stories we've inherited about what is possible. We can step beyond. We can listen more deeply. We can recover lost parts of ourselves. But the real awakening is not the moment we rise from the body. It is the moment we bring that freedom back into the body. To live as though the soul matters. To speak as though the invisible has value. To walk with the awareness that there is always more unfolding beneath the surface. This, Jung might say, is the beginning of wisdom. Not knowledge, not belief, but a quiet willingness to live in relationship with the mystery you carry within you. Final thoughts: what Jung teaches us about the invisible astral projection. Hypnosis, trance, dream, vision, all of these are doors. None are destinations. The psyche does not take you out of the world to entertain you. It takes you deeper into it. And if you are brave enough to listen, to see, to return, you may find that what you sought in the beyond was waiting all along inside you. Not as fantasy, not as doctrine, but as a soul ready to be remembered. What to watch next if this journey stirred something in you? Don't let it fade into memory. In our next video, we will enter one of Jung's most powerful and misunderstood ideas, the shadow. We'll explore what you've repressed, what you fear to face, and why bringing it into the light is not dangerous, but necessary. Until then, stay curious, stay grounded, stay open to the images that rise when the noise falls away. You're already moving toward yourself. Now walk slowly and let your soul catch up.